hell is that?
Crying all the time.
Elvis Presley.
Elvis is an absolute icon in not just rock and roll, but history alone. With his eccentric dance moves and groovy bluesy music rocking us around the world, it comes as to no wonder why he would be receiving a biopic.
Tomorrow, all of America will be talking about Elvis Presley.
President, try not to move around so much during the tape.
Elvis tells a tale behind an icon of rock and roll through the perspective of Colonel Tom Parker, and exposes the mismanagement in what he did to Elvis and the effects that it had on his career. From Elvis's humble beginnings of being found through radio and word of mouth to taking over Las Vegas with residency, it takes a complete inside look into the icon's life and how he was being used for all the wrong reasons.
Much just wiggle a finger.
There's a lot of people saying a lot of things, but in the end you gotta listen to yourself.
In that moment, Elvis the man was sacrificed, and Elvis the God was born.
What this movie tends to tell is the perils and damaging events of Elvis's career through the mismanagement of Colonel Tom Parker. Having this movie more so expose the effects of that and explores it through a more so overlook of his entire career, hitting emotional levels of how much pressure there was on Elvis throughout the events of his life. But what probably made this movie work in the best way it could was its telling of Elvis' story, and the path it had of telling it, making it feel like a complete truthful look into his career, the paths that he went down and the damage that he experienced throughout, whilst also tapping into mentioning a lot of his cultural influences through his style and music of rhythm and blues, as it really digs deep into the origin of where his musical style came from and what made him fall in love with music. However, yet there were many aspects of this film that diminished a lot of its meaning, like its usage of montages, over-the-top editing and style that distracts you from the typically used musical biopic formula, and whilst it worked, it managed to disintegrate the contextual value of its own story, ruining some character background information that feels essential to the film, as it tries to rush through a lot of the key moments in Elvis' life, therefore making it really hard to grasp the importance of its story. But if you look at this movie in a way where it's a glance at Elvis' life and the key moments of his career that affected him personally, you can find a way to grasp what the movie is about, which is the focus of Elvis and who he really was, rather than the icon of rock and roll that we all know him as today. Bass's style has influenced that throughout this movie, and managed to find a way to sprinkle bits of his terrific filmmaking into a lot of those scenes, making it feel incredibly powerful to watch, as it makes an impactful statement on the damaging effects of a hard, overworking artist. Austin Butler gives an electric performance though in his portrayal of Elvis, embodying his persona in the most spectacular way on screen, whilst managing to give a powerful physical performance that fills you with amazement and takes your breath away once you see him on the screen for the very first time. It's a performance that feels spiritually incredible and honestly makes it hard to differentiate between images of the real Elvis and himself. Whilst Tom Hanks also delivered a terrific performance as Colonel Tom Parker, and who comes out as a terrifying, powerful figure who works in manipulative ways as he manages Elvis. It's a performance that feels filled with energy that almost has dark tendencies within, which gives us this weird dark feeling inside look into how he used Elvis to get his way when it came to managing him, and works for the most part in a very effective manner on screen. But something that all the performances manage to provide throughout the film is some underlying physical context that brings this emotional effect within, and when seen on screen it builds a feeling of emotions that are intended to be felt through scenes. It becomes uncomfortable and unclear when not aware, but its subtle injection of tension within scenes become noticeable by the second, making it feel increasingly intense to watch sometimes, which is more so to give credit to Baz's excellent directing in this movie.
Colonel, you put an end to your boy's animal behavior, or we will.
There's a lot of people saying a lot of things, but in the end you gotta listen to yourself.
All in all, Elvis is a movie that charms its way through my heart, as it is a true telling of this icon in the history of music. Through Baz Luhrmann's filmmaking, it has managed to feel like a magical musical ride that, whilst can feel highly overwhelmingly over the top, it still captures the key telling of Elvis' story and his perils of fame and fortune along with mismanagement. Whilst it doesn't tap into anything deeper than that, its key themes and moments within its story still beholds a tremendous value when it comes to presenting a tale based upon an icon of rock and roll. You can catch Elvis in cinemas now.
We are the same, you and I. We are two odd, lonely children reaching for eternity.
The greatest show on earth.